To call the June 19, 2025 Public Art Commission meeting to order. First thing I'm going to do is roll call. Commissioner Gordon.
Present.
Commissioner Miyagi.
Here. Commissioner
Stern.
Present.
And I think we have Lisa attending. Yes, Commissioner Waltuck.
Present, joining remotely.
Okay, and I'm present as well. Okay, so before we start, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that today is June 19th, Juneteenth. It is an important day that marks the anniversary of the 1865 announcement in Texas that slavery had ended. It is a time to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved African Americans in the United States and to celebrate the ongoing contributions of African Americans in our nation. As a member of the Public Art Commission, we're proud to serve a diverse and vibrant community. Through public art, we aim to reflect, celebrate this diversity, promote inclusion, and create spaces where everyone feels seen, welcomed, and valued. So I hope we keep these values at the forefront as we move forward with today's very busy agenda. All right. Do we have any agenda changes, additions, and or deletions?
We do not.
Okay, do we have any public comments?
No members of the public in attendance.
Okay, first item, approval of minutes from April 17, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna just roll call. Commissioner Waltuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Biaggi?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
Commissioner Stern?
Yes.
And yes for myself. And I'm not gonna call the commissioners who are not in attendance today. All right. Do we have any city official comments?
City official comments. So I thank you for your announcement about Juneteenth. I was also going to recognize that today is a very historically significant day. And I appreciate the sentiment. Let's keep that in mind as we move forward with our agenda items today. So thank you. I wanted to bring up a very exciting celebration. We have a week from this evening on the plaza, and we have more of these announcements available. So our King Artist in Residence, Alio Landetta, is going to inaugurate the sculpture that will be on King Plaza for 6 months to 1 year. This is the culmination of a year's worth of work as our Artist in Residence, focused on the LGBTQ plus community. And so the celebration will be an unveiling. The piece will be installed earlier next week. And we will have a drag performer and we will have a DJ. So wear your dancing shoes and come on out and join us from 5 to 7 p.m. in front of City Hall.
Yeah. First action item? Is that we're moving? Okay, great. First action item, downtown parking garage.
Well, for some of you, this is a refresh, a blast from the past. And for some of you, this is brand new. There was a parking garage that was planned for just up the street on the corner of Hamilton and Waverly on parking lot D. And that project was identified in 2014. There were plans that were put in place. There was an artist selection that went through with community stakeholders. Amy Landisberg was selected as the project artist and actually completed a conceptual design that was approved by the commission. Oh, thank you for this timeline. That's so helpful. So yes, we're going back 11 years. So the artist selection process is actually more recent, 2017, 2018. The design was approved by the PAC in 2018. And the artist had done, come here to the Bay Area. The artist is from Atlanta, done a lot of research, collaboration with the design team, and come up with a conceptual design. So in 2023, council started looking at reinvigorating this project. Earlier this year, the conceptual design for the garage has been renewed. It's smaller in scale than the previous one, so it doesn't go all the way to Waverly. So this was the previous iteration, and the pink areas and the reddish areas show the primary areas that Amy Landisberg planned to incorporate artwork. Now, the plan is to make the garage a little smaller. It comes away from that Waverly frontage in anticipation of housing going in at that corner. So that facade will eventually become hidden. So naturally, that also affects the way the artist is thinking about the artwork. She also, when we began these conversations with her, she spoke about the fact that her practice has evolved quite a bit since she came up with that concept, and she would like the opportunity to revisit it. That original design contract was not completely paid out because she did not get into detailed design. It was an overall concept, and we were just getting into that. So in speaking with the artist, the overall budget for the garage gives us an estimated art budget of $230,000. It is typical for an artist for their design fee to be somewhere between 15 and 20% of the construction budget. So for this, she anchored it at 15 and then discounted 15% off of that for the work that's already performed because she knows the site, she knows the stakeholders. And from purchasing standpoint, this is a project that was on pause for a period of time. I do also need to mention that the project is a bit on a fast track because they're hoping to have detailed design completed by the end of the calendar year. So it is an aggressive timeline. We're thankful that Amy Landisberg is excited and interested to jump back in. She has met with the design team once already, but we need to get her under a design contract. So the timeline would be that she would come back with a new conceptual design with the new garage design. That would come to the commission for approval, and then we would ask for the allocation of funds for the fabrication, delivery, and installation of that artwork at that time. So with that, I'm open for any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Would you be willing or would it be relevant to share the original proposal? I understand it was general, just so we can see kind of the evolution. Or would that happen when you make the next proposal?
I mean, it's in the archives, the previous proposal. She's really moved away from that. A lot of it was based on topographic maps and the physical location of downtown and the garage. So her practice has moved away from that. So that new design would come forward to the commission. I can certainly follow up with a link to the previous staff report and the previous design if you're curious.
I'm just curious just to see the evolution. I think it might be interesting. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Incidentally, I remember she has a piece of artwork at the San Diego airport with the red car headlights. Is that right?
It was Hyundai. It was a specific model of Hyundai brake light or turn signals.
Yeah, and I just saw it this past weekend, and it was just beautiful. So the quality of work is definitely very high caliber.
I think it's wonderful that the artist, Amy Landisberg, is still interested in doing this project for us so many years later, because it's a very busy time for the Art Commission and definitely for staff. And so not having to do a full call is really wonderful. And so I'm in favor of seeing what she's interested in doing there. Thank you.
No, just by reference and for background, in the time that this project has been on pause, subsequent to the project being on pause until now, has she been actively working on various different projects? And then the style and the caliber of her work, I imagine, is fairly consistent. Maybe not the style, but the caliber of her work, I imagine, being, and also the type of projects that she's been engaging in, and also public art in nature.
Yes, she's been doing a lot of gallery work and public art in that subsequent time.
Great, thanks.
Elise, did you say, and maybe I missed it, that the reason for having stopped the project and then the reason for bringing it back?
It was a council decision to pause the overall garage project some years ago, and then now that they've determined that they want to restart that project. So think of it as a very long pause, which is how purchasing couched it to us.
So does that mean a financial decision or otherwise?
I think there were a lot of elements that went into that, including listening to feedback from downtown developers and businesses. And there is another parking lot that is impacted that will have affordable housing on it. So I think there are some concerns from merchants about available parking in downtown. So this is meant to help alleviate some of those concerns.
Thank you.
All questions answered. Okay, do I have a motion for allocation of funds in the amount of up to 30,600 for conceptual design development of public art by Amy Landisberg for the downtown parking garage?
So moved.
I second that.
Okay, great. Commissioner Waltuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
Yes.
and yes for me as well. All right, next action item is Code Art 2025.
You know, I don't like to choose favorites, but right now it is one of my favorite topics because it is a little all-encompassing to staff right now. But the Code Art Festival, of course, is coming up October 16th through 18th for all of the installations, but is going through the 25th with the 3 projection mapping artworks that will be on the front facade of City Hall. And so between staff and commissioners, we went out and spoke to various performing arts groups who might be interested in performing or doing demonstrations on King Plaza in that hour between 6 and 7 before the projections go live. And so we've come up with a really wonderful list of performances and demonstrations, which I will share with you. And the intent behind this item is we know that the commissioners are out there working hard on fundraising, and we have these great sponsorship opportunities here. We're hoping to have funders identified hopefully by the July 4th weekend so that we can work with them on the agreements and make sure that we're able to integrate whatever logos into our design and fabrication materials that will be on site. So, so some of the groups that we have online are the Dolorosaurus, who will be roaming downtown a few hours for the 3 nights of Code Art. We have a dance ensemble out of Cubberley that will be performing. We have an a cappella group. We have a taiko group. We have calypso drums. We have mariachi cardinal, and we have Stanford Bangra, and also the Stanford Laptop Orchestra group. And we've penciled in for a silent disco, a closing party that Saturday night. And we also had a great conversation with Peninsula Robotics today. And so we're talking to them about the possibility of those students bringing out one of their really amazing robots to do a demo one evening before the projections go live. And so the idea this evening is that we know the commissioners are out there working on the fundraising efforts, and thank you, and please continue. A lot of these groups need to know whether this is happening or not to get on their calendar. So this is an allocation of funds up to $10,000 should the outside funding not come through, so that we can ensure that we get these folks on the calendar.
Questions? Right.
Yes.
So, can you explain what the money is for? Like, are we gonna, are these paid performers? Or is it just for these sponsorships that we're trying to get, like the silent disco, but maybe we won't get it, the sponsorship?
This is in case sponsorship funds do not come through so that we can pay these performers and pay these for these entertainment items. So that is silent disco, Dolorosaurus, dance ensemble, O-tone, taiko, calypso, cardinal, mariachi, vanguard dancers, and slork.
Have they all, are they all paid performers or are some of them volunteer performers?
I believe we have 2 that are volunteer. Most of them are paid.
So Elise, are you saying that if we don't get the funds to come through, that they wouldn't participate or they would perhaps volunteer?
Thank you for the clarification. The funds are so that they will be paid and we can book them. If the commission is not able to secure outside funders, that we will guarantee that we can get these folks to perform.
And just to double check, because the amount, it's up to 10,000, but the sponsorship amounts are different. So I imagine if, let's say, the sponsorships don't come through, 10,000, would that be sufficient to cover all the events that we talked about, or will we require additional funding?
No, the 10,000 is for all of those that I just named to
Okay.
be able to happen.
Okay, great, fantastic, thanks.
Including the disco, silent disco closer.
We have to have a silent disco. Yes, that is included in the 10,000. Thank you for asking.
I have a question. Is it appropriate to ask how much these groups are going to be paid?
Yeah, so we left it up to them to ask what their funding structure was that was how the application was lined up. So, someone like the Dolorosaurus who's coming on 3 different nights, so that's 1,300. A cappella group is 850, taiko is 1,000, calypso is 700, mariachi is 325, Stanford Bangra is 2,000, and the silent disco costs 3,000.
And how much in sponsorship, if I can ask, how much in sponsorships do we have right now?
We don't have any as of yet.
Are we close to any? Tweet.
We have a conversation set up. Commissioner Shen came through with somebody, so we're hopeful something will come through next week.
Okay, do we have a motion to,
Sorry, I have one more question. Where is this money coming from? What fund is it coming from?
Yeah, so this would be coming from the Public Art Fund, from the private development money.
That's the same fund that's funding the other installations.
It's funding the projection mapping
Okay, and the projection, the installations are funded on another source.
through the CIP.
Okay.
do we have a motion to approve the request for funds in the amount of up to 10,000 to support performance by local performing art groups doing Code Art 2025?
Yes, I move that we support up to the amount of $10,000 for these programs. I think it'll be great for Code Art 2025. Thank you.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Waltok,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Miyagi,
yes.
and yes for me as well, thanks. First non-action item, public art in private development located or associated with 3150 El Camino Real development project.
Yeah, so we have representatives here this evening associated with the project. We have Danielle Wall and representatives from Acclaim Properties. This is a 7-story, 368 apartment project, which you will see, hopefully you had a chance to review in your packet, and you will also see in just a few moments. And so this is their initial review. So just a quick refresher, this is an opportunity for the commission before they've gone through their artist selection process to give comment on potential locations under consideration for the integration of public art, take any suggestions for potential themes and types of public art that might be appropriate that you would like to see the applicant team explore, and ask any further questions you may have about the project. So with that,
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah, on behalf of Acclaim Companies, the developer of 3150 El Camino Real, I'm pleased to present the 3150 El Camino Real housing project, a brand new housing community that brings 368 units to the city of Palo Alto, 74 of which are below market rate at the low level. From the original application submission in January of 2023 through today, this housing project is the culmination of almost 30 months of collaborative work between our design team and Palo Alto planning staff, and has been designed pursuant to the El Camino Real Focus Area Plan. Our team is a collective of some of the best designers, architects, engineers, and consultants in the country. We appreciate the city's partnership in achieving this milestone. Our team has met with public art staff to discuss options for integration of public art into the project, and we look forward to your feedback tonight. The project includes a rooftop garden lounge, a co-working area, fitness area, pool, club room, spa. It will also have 2 levels of underground parking. As a team, we're committed to enriching the Palo Alto community through engaging art experiences and dynamic public spaces. And this public art component seeks to enhance the building's architecture and its presence and place in the community of Palo Alto. So we have our landscape designer, Paul Lettieri. I think he's here. I know he's on vacation, but he said he might join tonight.
He's online.
Oh, he is. Okay, great. Thanks for coming, Paul. And Chris Lee, also from Studio T Square. And these are just 2 representatives that are just, we are so happy to have them on our team. We're just, the Gazzardo partnership, as you probably know, is a fantastic and highly talented group. And as well as Chris Lee's team at Studio T Square. So they can answer any questions you have tonight. We also have Danielle Wool of Danielle Wool Art Advisory. And so at this point, I'll hand the time over to her.
Thank you again for having us. We're really excited. Oh. What do I do?
Move that up.
Can you all hear me now? Thank you for having us. I'm Danielle Wool from Danielle Wool Art Advisory. I work with the business community and I help them procure artwork and art collections for their offices. Having had this brief discussion of an overview of the site and the importance of it, what I'd like to do is, I guess, just reiterate that this is a highly visible project. We're very excited about it. We look forward to the commissioner's feedback. And the site itself is the old fish market restaurant on El Camino. So it's 2.5 acres, and it'll be totally transformed, as so much of the El Camino corridor already is, from Fry's to everything else that's going on in that area. We are excited about the, oh, I should ask for slides. Can we have another slide? Here's the site. So it's between El Camino. It's on El Camino between Page Mill and Hanson on the west side of the street near Palo Alto Square. Palo Alto Square will be taller than this building, but this is a 7-story mixed-use project, 2.5 acres, as I mentioned. Can we have another slide? Yeah. And here it is, another view of it. So what we want to do is integrate art and architecture. We're hoping that the project will, we're expecting that the project will contribute to a definition of identity of the building, enrich the street, and most importantly, contribute to the cultural and visual character of Palo Alto as a whole. Both the developers and I have deep roots in Palo Alto. We care a lot about this project, and we care about how the community will respond to it. So we're pretty invested in it. And it's interesting too that the developers have committed so much of this percentage of art to art without just dismissing it and not doing it. It takes more work and more time and more thought, and they're very committed to that, which is really wonderful. So can we jump ahead for a couple of, oh, here we go. And with this slide, you can get a sense of where the artwork would be. 5 areas of artwork. It doesn't mean we necessarily have to include all 5 areas, but we might be able to because the budget is significant enough to at least attempt that. Can we get another slide? And these are renderings from the architect. So it talks a little bit about the building itself with the clubhouse and kind of community oriented in terms of all of these images. You can tell that there's a strong feeling of creating a community within this apartment building. And then there's a strong sense of community with the artwork that people who don't live there will certainly experience. Can we get another slide? Yeah. And this is, well, okay, we're going quickly. This is our estimated timeline. And since we're going quickly, let's go to the next one. And we will breeze through these pictures because I think we only have about 3 more minutes. So we can just move through them. And you can see at the bottom, we've put location options, but all of these are our preliminary ideas. These are inspirations that we're drawing from. All of these artists are very experienced in public art and in working with cities and with working with art commissions, which is really nice for all of us. It guarantees that the process will be smooth and none of the artwork will fall down. And here we have freestanding art, we have a water feature, and we can keep going. And we have artwork that's also appropriate for the facade of the building. So there's really a wide range of things. This work is by Ned Kahn. A lot of you might know his work from the upper right. The San Francisco airport has one of his really wonderful pieces. And as we progress, so more freestanding art and also art on the left, which would be attached to a building. Oh, that's okay. We can keep jumping. And here again, we have artwork. This is by a British artist, and he works on the sides of buildings and freestanding and also interior art, but that's not what we're looking at. And same thing, this artist is working thematically on the upper right. It has kind of a nautical feeling about it. And you might be familiar with this artist's work. He's a local wondrous person. and works in a lot of different styles. Some of his work is monochromatic and some of it has color, which would also be interesting to hear in terms of feedback. Do we want monochromatic? Do we want color? And that's it. And just like the slide says, thank you.
So thank you so much for your presentation. We're really excited about this project, and thank you for looking forward to beautifying Palo Alto and obviously improving with the new development. So when you say artists under consideration for submitting a brief concept, so this is a selection. Have you guys reached out to them? Okay, and will you be reaching out to some of them, all of them, or more of them?
I don't think all of them, because that's a lot. I think it would be half of them. And the reason I say I think is because perhaps with half of them, which would be 5 or 5.5, we might like their concepts, we might not. And so I think it's a little more prudent to start with half of them and see where we go. We have a lot of time on this, so we have that luxury of being able to start kind of systematically.
Is this
Yeah.
the actual, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So is this the actual rendering? Is this what the building's actually going to look like?
Yes. And what you don't see are the finishes, and they're really quite beautiful. There's a sophistication and an elegance to the structure. I think very fitting for Palo Alto.
I appreciate all the renderings and things that you've done so far, and the fact that it's going to be a combination of more accessible housing for some and market value for others. I'm wondering if, besides kind of bringing together community in these common spaces, is there any sort of theme that's been pursued or floated as you've conceptualized this with the greater team? And I'm wondering if so, if art can kind of work within that theme.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to speak to that?
Sure.
Or you can. In terms of a theme for the building, the theme is just gorgeous architecture that works with the community. So it's not necessarily to reflect that area of Palo Alto, which was a little bit separate from Palo Alto earlier, Mayfield, I think it's called. So it's not thematically oriented in that sense. So the artwork is also not thematically oriented. And I think it's interesting when artwork is, definitely, whether it's highly technological artwork that reflects what's happening in Palo Alto and Silicon Valley, or like the Fry's project that might have a sense of relationship to the site. We haven't done that. And part of it is that we are, I guess it's kind of old fashioned. We're going for art's sake.
It looked like a lot of the art was kind of geometric and abstract. Was that intentional when, as choosing this example of artists?
I think that was a curatorial perspective. So I'm working with Beatrice Barker, who has a lot of public art experience, mostly in Southern California, and she has a curatorial perspective, and I have a curatorial perspective. So that's what you're saying. It doesn't mean it's set in stone, but it means that it's reflective of our posture.
Thank you. Yeah, it was appealing. I liked it too.
Oh, good, good.
Sorry, can I ingest something? This is the architect for the project, Chris. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think maybe I can briefly answer Commission's question. I think the overall thing of the building, on one hand, is want to keep the kind of a little bit of the classic tradition of the Palo Alto, but we also want to look into the future. So I think the overall thing, if I can summarize in 2 words, would be contemporary with timeless gesture in the in the architecture proportion. The image you see actually is a toned down background. The color and the material actually very rich, very rustic, to enhance that timeless contemporary theme of the architecture. And also we intentionally create a two public plaza. You can see on the right-hand side in the middle, those are carved out, create a lot of setback from the sidewalk. So pedestrian can stop by, sit down, and really have a time to appreciate the artwork around that front entry area. I think those are the two highlights I want to point out. One is overall architecture, and another one is really pedestrian scale, open space. Then we can allocate the artwork in the comfortable environment for people to appreciate. Thank you.
I see in the handout here that the estimated budget is 1.2 million over for possibly 5 projects. Now, it can, the cost of art can be very expensive. So would it be narrowed down to maybe 2 or 3 locations with some really good art, or 5 locations with kind of art?
We'll go with the mediocre art.
Okay. And what I find with technological projects, they're almost obsolete as soon as you install them. So, I think that can be a problem because, as we know, technology, as soon as you buy a laptop, it's obsolete. So, you have to kind of think about that with technology and what you want to do there. But 1.2 million is kind of a good budget. Depends on how you get spread out over the different projects and how the public has access to it and all that goes along with that.
You raised some good points. Should I respond to these points? Are we okay?
You're welcome to.
Okay. You do raise some good points. And as Chris said, the idea of having kind of welcoming the public by having these sites is a good one. The budget of 1.2 million might be big or might be small. You're right. If there are 5 locations, it might be that we won't have enough to fund 5 locations to make the kind of impact that we're hoping to make. But that's something we'll find out when we start the process. And I think all of the locations are really very nice and they were thoughtfully identified. But if we reduce them, I think it's just fine if we don't have 5. So yes, it could be that the main curator on this project will be the budget.
Or, there could be one iconic piece of art that
could.
would really kind of define that area.
And that would be a very exciting way to approach it. Yeah.
And I understand there's a process for it, for the calculation, but can you maybe kind of walk us through how you arrive at the $1.2 million budget? And would there be adjustments? Because you said there may be more, there may be less. So I'd like to kind of understand that a little bit better.
Sure.
Thanks.
So yeah, so we're in the process of getting bids on the construction costs of the project now. We've had it priced out a couple of times as we've gone through the entitlement process. We are actually already submitted for like the building department's already looking at the plans and evaluating on a project of this scale. It takes months and months for them to issue a permit, of course. But we're feeling like the construction costs are coming in where we expect them to be, and then we've done a calculation to net out the cost of the below market rate units, which are equal to the market rate units, of course, and then taken a 1% of that total amount.
So if I can just add a little bit more, yes, the affordable housing is exempt. So the 1% would apply to the rest of the project, except for that portion of affordable housing projects. Before the building permit is issued, that's when we go through the verification of the evaluation. Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification, because it did look like a bigger project than the initial number would have conveyed.
I have a couple questions about the vision, who's going to be looking at this and from what vantage point? So for example, that Ned Con that you have on here, the hands in San Jose Airport, those are super successful because we view them from a long distance and coming in. This area, as we know, is not a super pedestrian area. I know you're going to try and improve the pedestrian spaces. And it's a place where people drive by. And we have a lot of, there's another piece, like, I don't remember the name of the building, but next to the Vista Center, there's a piece of public art in the, and I don't think people even notice that. So for Ben's suggestion about having an iconic piece and maybe focusing on your plaza versus having 3 or 4 or 5 pieces in different spots that may or may not be visible to the public, also shielded behind trees, if I'm not mistaken. So this, I don't know. It's just a suggestion that maybe we don't want to lose the art by the vantage point. We want to keep the art easy to see and people can experience it. That's just a comment.
Very nice. Very nice. Are you writing this down?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is really exciting to have this great new building coming, and I'm taking these 5 different locations as great suggestions. And once you find the artists that you're thinking of working with, I think they too will have good suggestions about not only what type of artwork should go there, but where it should be placed and whether that artist, well, here's a question. Will you have multiple artists working on this site, or do you prefer to go with one and have them do multiple installations, or just, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, now you're getting into my personal opinion. Okay, so I will tell you what my personal opinion is, but we work collectively. We work with everyone's opinions. So my personal opinion is very much what Harriet said. I think it would be really, it would have an impact in a really meaningful way to have one very large piece that becomes, if not iconic, then significant. Right. And the idea of identifying each possible area with art is not my personal perspective, but we have a lot of very intelligent perspectives around our table. We have you, we have the architect, we have the builders. So we have a lot of opinions that are all valid. So in terms of my opinion, I very much like what you've said. But so if we went with more than one location, I don't know. I think having the artwork talk to each other is very important. So if it was 2 different artists whose work had a relationship or a counterbalance to each other, that would be fine. My instinct about public art is that it would be the same artist.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah.
Just have one more comment. I presume that all kinds of different families, et cetera, will be living in this space. So it might be nice to have something that lends itself to more interaction in the community, maybe something you could enter or interact with, like water or texture, sensory things, and something fun and that children would enjoy and also grandparents would like, and everybody could enjoy it together.
Nice. Well, a water feature definitely does that. Then you have to, make sure the kids don't put their hands in their mouths. But a water feature would certainly speak to that.
Yeah. Oh, some water features you just can see from a distance.
That's true. And that's something that we've discussed, having it encased.
Do we have any more questions or input? Well, obviously, your clientele well. You're gonna have it's for the public that lives and works around there, as well as sort of the more distant public. And so we appreciate that you've identified areas that are highly visible and highly public so that they're accessible. So we're looking forward to the next iteration of your development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So the time for the next non-action item, public art in private development for the private development associated with 975 Page Mill Road Development Project. Thank you.
Yes, and we have Jamie Jarvis from Stanford Research Park here, and you already know Danielle Wall, and so they are the team behind this project. Unlike the previous project, it's a little bit different, and that there is an existing building there that will remain, although it's being renovated and altered and slightly expanded. So with that, I will leave it up to the applicant team to jump on in. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for having us today. And I'm Jamie Jarvis, Program Director for Stanford Research Park. Danielle's our art consultant and Heather Young is our architect. So they can all answer the questions that, you know, if I look like a deer in the headlights, they'll step in and save me with the details that they know. Let's go ahead to the first slide. And next slide. Wanted to set this a little bit in the context of the research park. The research park's been around. We celebrate our 75th anniversary next year. We've got about 10 million square feet of lab and office space out there. This is the area all along Page Mill, you know, where you go by and you see Tesla signs and HP signs and that type of thing. We've got about 150 companies out there, predominantly in R&D. And we've had about 1,500 startups that have launched out of the research park, out of various incubators and accelerators. Next slide. Our vision for this particular facility is we are repurposing and modernizing about a 30-year-old existing building, 50,000 square feet, and we want this to become a center of innovation. Next slide. Thank you. Specific goals for this project to appeal to early stage founders and entrepreneurs by offering flexible workspaces. Right now, we have a lot of very large buildings in the research park that don't accommodate that audience. Create a pipeline for future tenants. So they start out, they're successful, and they keep growing into larger spaces. Increase interest in working in the research park by Stanford students and faculty. Reinforce Stanford Research Park as a center of innovation and align with universities' growth areas of life science, AI, and climate tech. Next slide. And we'll skip one more. Little specific information about this project. It's located at 975 Page Mill. As I said, it's an existing building. You can see the map on the left is the entire research park. And so this is sort of down what we consider the urban end of the research park by El Camino. And then if you look at the aerial view, you can get a perspective. El Camino would be on the left. You see the soccer fields, Palo Alto Square, and then the project. Next slide. Site plan, wanted to share this with you. So things to note here, the building is pretty close to Page Mill. Somebody entering the site is going to come in off the Page Mill driveway, vehicle parking to the left, building entrance would be to the right, stairs, large stairs up to a plaza. There's plazas added on two sides of the building so people can enjoy our great outdoor weather. There's a patio on the back side of the building, the Hanson side, and then the front is going to be re-landscaped and we're going to put a sidewalk so people can walk around the building. This is the entrance from the parking lot looking up towards the building. So the entry stairs and heading towards the lobby. If you look on the right, you will see a meeting space and that actually is legitimately open in that there would be cantina style doors that can open up so that if somebody's having a meeting in there and then, okay, it's time for your break or your social hour, you could come out onto the plaza. Left is outdoor dining for the cafe, which will be publicly accessible. Next slide. And then just another view so you can see a little bit more what it looks like on the front from Page Mill, the landscaped area and the sidewalks. Next. And I wanted to give you just a little insight into the interior of the building and the uses that we're planning for this. We are looking at having an accelerator office on the ground floor, co-working offices, meeting rooms, a active learning studio, and a cafe and dining room. And looking at the art locations. Next slide. We are actually pursuing the interior lobby, rear wall of the lobby. It's about 18.5 feet wide, nearly 11 feet tall. And you can sort of see what that would look like coming towards the lobby. And then I wanted to look a little bit of how this would work for somebody entering the building. So they come, actually, let's go back to that one slide because I just want to do the floor plan here. So someone comes up to where that red line, thank you for pointing that out. They're coming up, they enter the lobby. If they're going to the cafe, that's going to be the whole left side. If they're attending a meeting in the space, that's going to be the right, and then the offices are towards the back. Next slide. And then we, Heather's group put together some renderings of what the art could look like. And we are looking at doing digital art, which is why you see things that look like screens here. And we're experimenting with some different layouts and sizes. The reason that we are looking at digital art is we feel that it's kinetic. We feel like it can be tech forward. There's a lot of interesting options in that, which I'll show you in a minute. And that's also, it makes part of why we want this piece inside, because then we can do that without worrying about weather and lighting constraints. The other aspect of having the art inside is sort of the discussions that you had previously. Our budget for here is about $100,000. That goes a lot farther inside than it does outside. So we think we can do a piece that has a lot of impact. And because this is such a public facing building, that people will be welcome to that lobby and engage with it. The lobby will be open at least 50 hours a week. And as I mentioned, the cafe is open to the public, and it is going to be a cafe vendor that people embrace and want to go to. And then the meetings, in addition to the meetings that we would host for our tenants and occupants of the building, we have an existing amenity building on Porter Drive, maybe some of you have been to, and we host a lot of community meetings there. We hosted Palo Alto's neighborhood town hall there last week. We host the Palo Alto School District's PTA award meetings. We host Youth Community Service does a donor appreciation event there. And then we have a variety of book talks and lectures and cultural events and sustainability fairs that we invite the public to. And so that would be the same case in this building. And some art inspiration we have. Next one. This is an example of, this is Eve Peitzner, and this is an artist that Danielle has worked with in another application, and she and the client were very satisfied with this project. Next one. Casey Reyes. This was actually an artist that I saw over at Palo Alto Art Center at the Textile and Technology exhibit. He's a professor out of UCLA, and his work caught our eye. Next one. And this is Carter Hodgkin. I actually, in my office up in Redwood City, we have a static version of her work there that caught my eye. And when Danielle said, oh, she does animations, I'm like, okay, well, let's take a look at that. And then the last one that I just want to put up for inspiration, Daniel Kanagar, he was also at the Textile and Technology exhibition. And what's really interesting about this piece in particular is it's generative art. So this is actually a representation of a power grid, and the colors and the data coming in represent different types of power and different amounts coming into the grid. So yellow solar, black would be fossil fuels, blue is hydro. And so because it's a generative piece, it's never the same, and it's always evolving. All right. Thank you. And we'd be happy to hear your comments and questions.
Actually, my first question is for Elise. Elise, I think you know, and this project, the first thing, and I think you tried to address the visibility and accessibility aspect of the proposed location. I was wondering, do we have similarly sort of situated type of building where the artwork is sort of inside the building rather than outside the building? Do you have a reference point for that?
So one great example is actually at Avenidas, Martin Webb's piece, which is just inside that entrance as you come inside. And in meeting with the applicant team, it is a pretty limited budget. So as they mentioned, it's going to go a lot further inside with the visibility from the exterior of the building. But there is precedent for that.
I have a question about the development. You mentioned kind of, and maybe I misunderstood, but kind of reinvigorating interest from the Stanford community and the students and the entrepreneurs in this space. How is it currently thought of and is part of this kind of redo to inject new life? Like, have you found that? I'm just wondering kind of the impetus behind this and how they currently think of it, the users of this space.
So this building is actually empty right now. It's a vacant building. It's been vacant, I want to say, for about 2 years. It had been, I'll be honest, it was kind of a hodgepodge. It had been subdivided for 2 or 3 law firms. And so there's all these sort of random entrance doors, and it was not lovely. We went in after the pandemic, demoed all that, took it out. And to be honest, it was on the market for a while. We were waiting to see if, a life science company or something would want that. And right now, there's a lot out there on the, really shiny new buildings that companies can pick from. And so this building was not super appealing as it is. So we knew we needed to refresh it, which is why Heather's team's on board to handle that project. What's really unique about this building for the research park is the size of the tenants we can accommodate. Our typical building size is 100,000 square foot, which is 300 to 500 employees in a building. That's not a startup. That's not an entrepreneur. Those type of spaces also require significant investment and time before a tenant can even get in here. So the idea is that this building has a lot of opportunity for smaller offices, plug and play, short-term leases. You're not locked into a 10-year lease when you don't know if you have funding beyond the 6 months. So it's really a significant change for us. And this just seemed like the right time and the right place to do that.
Does Stanford have any precedent for anything like this?
No, that is not. This is going to be something new for us.
And sorry, one more question around that same theme. I hear you saying kind of innovation, step up, growing, accommodating all those needs. Is there also from the design standpoint, a focus on collaboration, even between some of these groups that might come in?
There is, and that's part of one of the things you'll notice if you look at the floor plan is we have very large meeting spaces. And part of that is so it's more efficient, because normally you would have a building and everybody would take care of their own meeting spaces. For smaller tenants, that's not efficient. So we wanted to have the larger meetings. If they want to have a conference, if they want to have all their employees, including employees that might sometimes be remote, come in, they can have those collaborative spaces. You'll also notice that the dining area is designed. There's a large lounge area. So, coffee meetings are pretty common among the startup community. Let's just meet in the lounge for coffee. And then if you look at the office to the right on this, that's designed to be an incubator space. So a lot of collaborative space, a lot of lounge space, but then also a lot of the conference rooms where people break out and work on more intense projects. And one of the things I should mention that's kind of unique about this is there's a space towards the middle that we're calling a learning, kind of our learning and hands-on conference room. So if you're going in to hear a panel or a typical discussion, you would go into the more standard meeting rooms. But this one is more the hands-on. So sometimes we'll have presenters come over from Stanford D School. They don't like to stand up and just talk at people. They like to walk around and have you working on things and interacting with each other. So that's going to be a room that's set up differently to accommodate that kind of activity.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation tonight. Thank you for coming tonight. We do have an example of a digital wall right here in the lobby.
I remember what that used to look like.
Yeah. So I understand why to have an indoors with the limited budget that you have. One of my concerns is the public being able to access it other than the people that work in that building. You say that cafeteria is going to be a well-known name that hopefully will draw other people in from the outside. So my main concern is how the public would really have access to that, to be able to come in and look at that. And I know this wall here is sometimes used for announcements and things. I don't know if you could do that with that wall that you want to do, welcoming another company in, or some sort of a meeting, that sort of stuff. It could have multi-uses, just besides having art on it. I was at first a little hesitant about having an indoor location simply because of the access to it. But now that you explain with the limited budget and stuff, I can understand why you would want to have it indoors, because then you don't have to weatherize it and all that other good stuff that goes along with that. So, yeah, I think this is probably the best use. It's just, again, my concern about public having access to it.
So under the terms of the ordinance, it requires that the artwork is open and accessible to the public a minimum of 40 hours per week. So my understanding from the applicant team is that, yes, it will be open to the public. Perhaps there would be some signage inviting the public in, something of that nature. But that is the criteria under the ordinance.
Thank you. Because the more I think about it, I was actually pulling up the ordinance about accessibility, and obviously there's the 40-hour minimum requirement. But also in addition, kind of looking at the location, it's on Page Mill. Unless people kind of drive in, park their car, they're really not there to even know it's there. So I think it has to do with, and maybe that's why you spend so much time on talking about the purpose of the building, who you're intending to bring to the site, not just the tenants, but also making it available for public functions, essentially advertising and then bring the public in. Is that, so a lot of it, I think it's operational.
I totally agree with you. And we have what we call the hub located on Porter Drive.
Yeah.
And we have, one of the things we did a couple of years ago, shortly after the building opened to welcome the community to it, is we had three months during the summer, where 1 month, I think in June, we had cultural celebration, and then we had a sustainability celebration, and then we had STEM fairs. And Palo Alto community was encouraged to come to those. We had 800 people at those events. So we do like to draw a crowd. You know, we do interesting stuff. We want to welcome people out there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
I have a couple of questions. The art that you've shown us today, very interesting pieces. Maybe Danielle, you could speak to this. Are these, you said the last one is generative. So what is the aspect of these? Do they are they on a loop, or do they react to you? How does it, what can you tell us a little bit about that?
It can be any of those things. And we're in the process right now of looking at different artists whose work we think would be appropriate. So it can be generative, and Jamie described what that was. It can be on a loop. Often it's a 4-minute loop or a 6-minute loop, or it can be interactive. It probably wouldn't be interactive because one of the things Jamie talked about is that it is the lobby area is public facing, and that's kind of a double entendre. It is public facing and it's really public facing because the distance between when one opens the front door and sees this art wall is shallow. It's not even as big as the one we have here. So it's starting to have almost an Eichler-like indoor-outdoor quality. So it probably wouldn't be interactive because it might drive the people who work at that information place crazy, but it can be.
Well, I did see that information desk is right in front of the piece.
It's right in front of it. So it really is almost outside. It does have this indoor-outdoor feeling. But there was something else that that you had said earlier about video art and how it can be dated easily. And I think so. What we're doing is looking at artwork that is technology driven, because so is this area. But it's grounded in art. It's grounded in an aesthetic. So there are some artists like Bill Viola, whose work from 20 years ago still resonates, not because it's technologically interesting anymore, although it is to me, but because it is visually, emotionally sublime and interesting. And so that's something we need to be very cognizant of.
And I just think of the fact that there will be people who will come in here and they will see the piece once. And then there's people that are going to come in and see it multiple times a day. So there's a balance of trying to get the energy and the uniqueness right for those audiences.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions?
Oh, I just wanted to comment on the architecture. I really love the exposure of the building. It's great. It does seem very inviting and indoor, outdoor. And I also think I have viewed pieces, especially the one at Avenidas, when it's closed, I'll bring people there and just say, hey, look at that, and you can do that with this piece. And as long as, and I'm sure you will, have a safe parking lot, so it's well lit. So there are people who like, hey, let's go check these things out.
Yeah.
And you have other public art right on Page Mill as well. Some really cool light things that those are outdoors, but it could be just fun for people to even just drive by it. And I think I would encourage you to make it easy to see from outside the building. I get that people are invited in and obviously, well, I know the hub is very popular for people to eat there. And it sounds like this too will be an attraction for people, a destination for people to eat and a good gathering space. But I think making the piece large enough and interesting enough that you can actually see it without entering the building is important too. Thanks.
I always think that every advantage is a disadvantage and every disadvantage is an opportunity. And the fact that this is intended to be an inside and therefore triggering the requirement of, the 40 hours, the accessibility and all this extensive conversation about making it more publicly accessible creates an opportunity for you to invert and turn this into even more of a vibrant space, which is really the original intention of all this renovation.
Exactly.
So I'm very excited about that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
No, super excited. Thank you so much. Thank you for being
Thank you so
thoughtful and
much.
respectful of the
Nice to see you
requirements.
both.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Our next,
And you'll stay for another one.
that's right. Yeah. Please stay, please stay. Okay, the next non-action item is the Copperly Community Center activation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so we have Assistant CSD Director Amanda Demmel here, and we also have Kristen O'Kane, who's joining us. You coming up to the table? CSD Director to present this project, and I'm sure the commission will appreciate the intro slides too.
Yeah.
So with that, Amanda, I'll give you this.
What a great opportunity.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. Amanda Demmel, Assistant Director for Community Services, and I'm joined tonight by Kristen O'Kane, Director of Community Services. Before we begin our last item, I also would like to take a moment to echo the earlier acknowledgements of the special holiday of Juneteenth. So especially now more than ever, it's important that we reflect on the significance of this day, our shared history, and all the work that still lies ahead. So thank you for joining us and holding space for this pivotal day in our history. So with that, let's begin our presentation. We're here tonight to provide you an update on the Cubberley Master Plan process and the near-term activation initiatives at the Cubberley site, and invite your feedback from the Commission on the plan document. Next slide, please. Oh, you beat me. All right. Oh, no, go back one. You're too fast. Our presentation will cover a brief background on the project to date to orient you on our progress, and then we will review the strategic activation plan document that is included in your packets, and then we welcome your feedback and discussion. Next slide. All right, so the Cubberley site, we're going to start with just a brief high-level background, because I know there's probably varying levels of knowledge about the project, and it is vast. So the Cubberley site is a total of 35 acres. The city currently owns 8 acres and leases much of the remaining 27 acres from PAUSD, which is Palo Alto Unified School District. In October 2024, PAUSD and the City Council approved a MOU, which is a Memorandum of Understanding outlining future conditions, which included a land purchase of 7 additional acres by the city. This would be contingent on a successful bond measure by voters in November of 2026. In December of 2024, the city initiated a new master planning process, which was building upon the previous 2019 master plan. Concordia is leading the master planning process again, which is really great because they led our process in 2019. So they have intimate history and relationships with our community and city staff. So we definitely are starting in a really wonderful place, which is very advantageous for the project. The city has also contracted with FM3 to lead the polling efforts and Lou Edwards Group to lead the ballot strategy. City Council established an ad hoc committee to review and advise staff on efforts related to polling and development of a ballot measure. Their work includes polling, financial and revenue forecasting, master planning, and community outreach. There have been many project milestones so far. A few noteworthy ones that we'd like to share with you tonight are that have been completed so far was the council visioning session in February, the first master plan community meeting, which was held in March, the first of 3 community polls, which launched at the end of April, and we just held the second master plan community meeting on June 12th. The next set of milestones that are coming up just through July, otherwise it would be a very long list, is we are here tonight at the Public Art Commission meeting. We will be going to the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting next week on June 24th, Planning and Transportation Commission on July 9th, and Architectural Review Board on July 17th. Yes. All right. So strategic activation plan. So now the focus of what we are here to review and discuss with you tonight, the strategic activation plan for near-term activations at the Cubberley Community Center. So staff, in coordination with the City Council Cubberley Ad Hoc Committee, which was previously mentioned, was established to support the project, decided it would be beneficial to enhance and activate the Cubberley site in the near term to help generate community awareness, excitement, draw public interest, and build momentum as we lead up to the 2026 ballot initiative. As you'll see on the strategic activation plan document, it's intentionally aligned around the 3 broader project phases: the master planning, the community engagement and polling, and then the anticipated November 2026 ballot initiative. This phased approach supports resource allocation, staff capacity, and maintains strategic alignment across all 3 project stages. So how the Public Art Commission is involved and can support the strategic activation plan will be through leveraging the Art Lift grant program in 2026. As discussed previously in the Public Art Commission annual retreat in January 2026, there was strong interest in launching a new round of Art Lift grants to fund temporary art installations across key commercial corridors and neighborhoods in Palo Alto, with a focus on downtown, California Avenue, and the Cubberley site. These temporary projects could include wall or fence-mounted art, ground installations, freestanding works, or performance-based activations. Tonight, the purpose of this presentation is to show the Commission how staff are moving forward with these plans and also share how Art Lift grants fit into a greater set of plans for activation of the larger Cubberley site. We also invite any other ideas or feedback the Commission may have on the activation plan as a whole. The allocation of money and selection of artists will be facilitated per the typical protocols by public art staff in January 2026. All right, next steps. The next steps for the strategic activation plans as we look forward are, since it has come out of the City Council Cubberley Ad Hoc Committee, it will be reviewed and receive feedback and recommendations from the Public Art Commission, Cubberley users, the Parks and Recreation Commission, and the newly created Parks and Recreation Ad Hoc Committee. In early August, the City Council Cubberley Ad Hoc Committee will reconvene to review and discuss the latest recommendations. A full presentation to the City Council is scheduled tentatively for August 18th, and we'll review the final plan, and then hopefully implementation will begin soon after. This is in addition to things that we already are doing, but this will be the full plan be put into action then. So with that, we thank you for your time and attention, and we welcome your comments and your feedback and discussion.
Well, this is a very exciting project, and I appreciate the continuous efforts to reinvest in Palo Alto.
I have a question. How is, for the ad hoc committee that exists now, what where do you find the kind of most excitement in terms of use of space from that's coming from that committee at this point? I know it may change, but at least you've started with a group of interested community members.
To clarify, from the PRC ad hoc?
Yes.
So that one is about to be created, and that will be established at the meeting next week on June 24th. So right now, the ad hoc that's created is the City Council ad hoc, which they have expressed that they've been talking to a lot of community members who are really excited and have lots of good ideas. So that's kind of what spurred this document and plan that staff have put together, and then we'll be circulating through this list of stakeholders. And so they wanted to make sure that this group got to be a part of giving feedback, naturally, since the Art Lift grants are going to be a part of it, and then the PRC ad hoc, and then we'll be involving the Cubberley users and tenants to be able to give feedback as well. So they'll get to contribute to it. So, but the PRC ad hoc hasn't yet been created. They were going to be created at the last meeting, but they ran out of time. So, but they should be established next Tuesday on the 24th, and then we'll be meeting with them.
I think I misunderstood, because I know there was a call several months ago for community members to start coming to these meetings to generate initial ideas. Did that not happen?
That might be the community meetings for just the master plan. So that might be what you're referring to. So we have had 2 master plan community meetings. So we had the first one on March 19th, and then the second one was just June 12th. So that's where we were inviting the community members to come to Cubberley and participate in the master planning process. So perhaps that's what you're thinking of. Yes. And we did have about 130 community members come to that, and they're specifically giving their feedback on on the master planning process. In our latest meeting, we presented 3 concept plans to the community, and they got to give their feedback on the components and aspects that they liked and disliked. And the consultants, Concordia, will be taking all of that feedback and coming back on September 17th to present one concept design at the next meeting for the community to give feedback on. And then the final presentation will be December 8th. So I wonder if that might be perhaps the meetings that you're thinking of.
Yeah, so perhaps my question is too premature, but just to get a sense of the kind of theme roads that you're going down. So I understand the process that you outlined beautifully. I'm just wondering kind of where general community interest comes into play and which direction it's going. And you can tell me this is premature if this is too early to ask.
No, I don't think that's premature at all. Essentially, that's kind of what we want to do, is not only spread awareness, but keep the excitement and the momentum going all throughout the process. So we've done some Coverly tabling events, building upon the CASP Open Artist Studios, and then actually brought in some of the other tenants. There's been a lot of other I'm blanking on Imagination Lab was a big part of like spreading the word and kind of rallying. The library was a part of it too, the Friends of the Palo Alto Library. And so we are thinking about, one of the ideas on the list is bringing back Coverly Day. And so activating the site. So from the full list, movie nights, concerts, doing things like that throughout the year to just kind of keep that, we're calling it the buzz going and the momentum. So no, that's the goal of this, is it's not too premature. So staggering out ways to keep people interested, not only aware and educated, but also really excited about it. So that's the goal of this plan. And that's what we're looking for your feedback on, not only as far as keeping you updated about the Art Lift grants, but we'd love your feedback about the other activation ideas. And if you have any other great ideas that we might be missing.
Great, thank you so much. That does sound very exciting. And that's the fun part of it, right? All of that, the uses and the community involvement.
Yeah, that's very exciting. The Art Lift grants, I mean, I'm remembering the retreat we had. Are we starting those, the call for those in January 2026?
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Generally, we launch, we come to the commission to allocate funds and sort of give
Right.
direction on how we want the grants to be focused.
Mhm.
And then we launch the call so that those grants roll out over spring and possibly summer.
So like we traditionally have done. And so that will keep the interest going in this. Okay, that is really exciting. And we don't know how many grants we'll be doing yet, and you'll give us more guidance on that as we approach that date, January.
Once we get through code art, we can start to formulate that a little bit further. But yeah, so we're very excited about it.
Got a couple questions. So you can remind me again, you're going to the Parks and Recs. Where else? But public art, Parks and Recs, where else?
The newly established Parks and Rec ad
Ad hoc,
hoc.
yeah.
We're a little out of order. Typically, we'll go to an ad hoc before the full commission, but since it wasn't created, but we want to make sure to include them. And then the Coverly users. So we're going to be setting up another meeting to check in with the tenants, as well as share this with them and then solicit their feedback. And then we'll reconvene with the ad hoc and Coverly ad hoc from City Council Coverly ad hoc, long title, to share the feedback and recommendations that we've learned, and then hopefully present to full council on August 18th.
So you're going to be going to those other commissions or committees and asking the same as you're asking us, like what we could do to help make excitement around the project.
Correct. So essentially we're starting with this as a framework and then adding to it as we go with the recommendations that we get from the stakeholders.
And Concordia in September, when they come back, is that with the amalgamation of all this data that they've collected through this process? What's that going to be? Is that just going to be a high concept? This is what people would like to see? Because I was there at the meeting, so I saw those 3 different and how we were supposed to jigger them and figure out what we liked and what we didn't like. And so when they present, what is that document going to be doing? What is that drawing going to be doing? What is that? How are we going to, is that then going to be on the referendum? Can you tell me what the process is?
Yeah, my understanding is it'll kind of be one concept plan that will be all of the feedback gathered at the last meeting into one design is the goal. So right now we just met with them today and they're analyzing all the data that they collected last week from the 2 activities. And the goal is to put it into one model, one 3D model that they'll bring back. There'll still be one more opportunity for the community to give feedback before the final presentation. So it's not the last time, but it is to bring back one final plan for the community to weigh in on. So I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Nope. Kristen O'Kane, Community Services Director. No, that's pretty much what they will be presenting, taking all the information that they've gathered so far and then asking for feedback on the one concept.
And then that will become the referendum that people will vote on?
Well,
Or is it just that we just have we're going to vote on the money, right, to fund the purchase?
so the concept that will be presented in September will still need to be brought to the city council in December for a presentation, but then for final adoption in March. And then the council will decide where to go from there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And the delay is because the CEQA analysis won't be finished until March.
Okay. And between the referendum, whether that was, and then the eventual final plan for whatever is going to be built, we were talking about how we're going to keep the activation going on the site until, it could be 2 or 3 years down the line, yeah? Or 4. Right. I'm a little confused about what it is that we're talking about today in terms of public art. We're just trying to bring people in to get people onto the site and excited about the future.
Yep. So this plan specifically is just mapping out till November 2026. You'll see the phases are broken up for until when the master plan is finished and then out until November 2026. So at this time, that's what we're looking at. And then after that, we probably can look at beyond that when we'll know more about the bond measure and timing and construction and if we have a project. So today's document is just getting us through November 2026 and how to keep again the buzz, excitement, education, activation.
So you're looking for us to say between April 2026 and November 2026, here's what public art proposes we can do at the site.
Yeah, one, it's just to keep you updated that we hear you and we're moving forward about the Art Lift grants and to solicit any of your wonderful ideas about feedback on what we're proposing for activation and anything else we might be missing that you think is a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. I'm glad I could get here before you were done. It was otherwise occupied. I wanted to get here earlier, but I'm delighted you're discussing this, Vicki Vinker, Vice Mayor. Yeah, I think that for us, as we go through the plan, the Cupperly analyses, community workshops that were described, and we think about the strategy, if, deciding whether to place this on the ballot, if so, how to, strategically do it to make it worth all the effort, because it's a big undertaking to do. What we're trying to do is to help people envision what it is they would be voting for. And so this activation now, there's these 3 phases here, right? Phase 1 is now, phase 2 starts in January, and then the next one would go from April till November of 2026, is to help people at Cubberley kind of see it, feel it, believe it, decide if they want it, how much they would like it. And I think you all understanding the arts community that is housed there might have some ideas about how to get the word out, inspire people, let them kind of demonstrate to them what it could be. So I think it's that kind of an activation in the meantime that would help us know whether that does get people inspired and whether they do think this is something that they would get excited about. So you all are the experts on that front. And so I'm part of why I'm here is I'm just eager to hear what you might think would be helpful and effective.
And is there a budget for this besides the public art budget, or no? We're just talking about concepts.
So at this time, the Art Lift grants already have allocated budget, which that is great because we're trying to be very fiscally responsible. Some of these other items, depending on what we decide to do, may have some budget through some of our Cubberly resources. Other things will be determined on what we decide. So right now we are in the brainstorming, and we will, I guess, to be determined. So right now we don't want to rule anything out. We just want to collect the feedback and then we can determine the feasibility of it. So, I mean, we're not shooting the moon, but anything is an option and then we can determine what we can do. So we don't want to stifle your creativity.
And the Art Lift grants, like you mentioned, we're talking about Cal Ave, downtown, and Cubberly. So we're talking about 1/3 of the grants going towards Cubberly, or are we going to try and focus more on Cubberly? Thank you.
Well, that's a great question because no decisions have been made about that yet. So it's coming in January. So that would be good feedback for me to have as we think about, how those are allocated. Does it make sense to allocate potentially more funding or to weight it more toward Cubberly and have some others? So definitely that feedback is also helpful, not only for the team that's here, but also for us as public art staff as we think about what we come back with as a recommendation in January.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I think this is really helpful. And as we imagine the future, I appreciate that public art has a voice and input in this process precisely because the location itself, we have invested so much by having the artist program there, and have this location being associated with artistic activities as well as a place where art is being created. So I think that's an important legacy, and I think that's an important designation for that location. It'd be wonderful to have that continue, that culture, that legacy to continue to be reflected in its future iteration.
Are you asking also at this moment for us to make recommendations, or if we have suggestions to chime in now, or is that for another time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So
yes to both.
okay. I just wanted to say, also just having had the Stanford Research Park presentation and knowing about one of the Google spaces by Shoreline that welcomes any community nonprofit to have functions, lectures, presentations, events, all that sort. I think some kind of community space for it may be themed like, nonprofit or city focused or something, but to have kind of multi-use spaces that could serve different functions would be a great aspect of the Cubberly group, the Cubberly space.
Thank you.
Lisa, I really like your input. I think you're absolutely right because the different locations have their natural audience. And just as when we were talking about the research park, they were talking about who are going to be the natural tenants, and then who are going to be sort of this second tier users for that space. And I think part of what we were talking about is we now doing this for the past however many years, we have an artistic representation in that location. We also have people, performing cultural activities and, other performances in that location. So it would be wonderful to bring that population to continue to sort of bring art to the community in that location and maybe have that continue to be a legacy for that location.
It's interesting because what made me just hearing you, Yesenia, think about this is I was part of a Facebook group that was a group of local artists all kind of Palo Alto Bay Area local artists who wanted, so they weren't part of the, very selective Cubberley group, small group, but they were probably over 100 people that wanted their art seen, and they were using the Google space for that because it was an opportunity. And I think they went somewhere else if they were going to sell it, but that was an opportunity for the public to interact with art produced by local artists. So it was kind of both this kind of second tier, but also still very art themed, and also showing that there is a need and a want in the community for something like this.
Great suggestion. I love that, Lisa, too. Also giving a platform for artists or performers to interact with the public and for no cost or something local.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big problem, I think. So I also feel one of the best things we could do is actually just get some seating out there and maybe a coffee cart. I mean, that's one way just to get people to sit down together. And you do have a whole bunch of great artists out there. And I know that Tara had expressed her concern about security around, the art. And it would be great if you could do some exterior, some kind of some kind of exhibition outside with the artists of Cubberley already there. I mean, that would be, we'd have to, of course, compensate them for their work, but because I think a lot of people don't even, it's a little intimidating to try and go in the door, and people are working, and so they have their Cubberley, the open artist days twice a year. But other than that, I think there could be more interaction between the artists and the general public, even just their artwork, or maybe just print some giant posters of their artwork and affix them to the wall so that people know what's happening behind that door. It's just an idea.
And with the Art Lift grants, these artists get pretty creative. We've had some pretty amazing things like running wolves and very hands-on. And I think it could be fun to do a grant that's very interactive with the public. And at the same time, like you said, offer a coffee cart there and showcase the artists and make it really interactive. I know when we do open studios, it really activates the space. People are very comfortable there. And if we just invite them, like you said, even bringing some casual outdoor furniture that people can lounge on. It's a great idea. Are dancers there. I'm sure there are musicians there. So we can engage those who already work there, but also when we do the call for the Art Lift grants, we'll get some very creative ideas in that space. And like you said, keep it energized, keep people interested. What is going on there? There are tons of sports going on there too. So somehow maybe connecting even the arts and the athletics at one point too could be really fun.
I really like the idea of like even sort of creating a space where people can be comfortable and like showcasing a different side of Palo Alto. Palo Alto has an incredible reputation. We have world-class this, we have world-class that. And sometimes it's a little stressful to be, always the premiere this, the premiere that, and like sort of the other side of the brain. And this is where we celebrate, and this is where we get to be this version of Palo Alto, this version of Palo Alto. I think it's wonderful.
And I don't know, I'm thinking about this, but because you are saying it is pretty intense at times, and we are looking at, this special time between January, then April to November. Well, there's a great fun holiday that falls in there, and it's October 31st. And I could see doing something really enlivening this space, something funky and fun around that. So
I just want to note that ballots drop about a month before November 6th or whatever the date is. So by then it's a little late into the ballot campaign.
Yeah, we could do it this year. Yeah.
we would do other
The
things.
ballot will be November 2026, so we could do something this Halloween. Well, these are wonderful ideas. Any others? I'm writing everything down.
I wonder if you if there's any sort of parameters that are established like for lectures or talks or things like that, like if the city itself has priorities like I don't know, climate change and uh, wildfire health and I don't know, just things that are kind of contemporary interest and or maybe, once a quarter you have a kind of a theme, at least for some talks or lectures and inviting people. I think getting as many people into this space who have a variety of interests throughout the community is going to serve to enliven it because then people become aware of what else is there. So however we can draw them in with priorities that are top of mind for the community or expanding our minds or expanding our interests or expanding, what we think about, interact with, read about, et cetera, to have a focus point at Coverly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because we have so many different city activities that are happening on a daily basis. If you look at our city calendar, there's literally an event every single day. And I think people forget that Coverly can be an option to host. And I think one of the things you hear all the time is once you go there, then you go, oh, I had no idea all these other things are happening. So I think that's a really good point that we can do a good job of just sharing that this is a location that exists to host your event or your lecture because that is happening all the time. And just, it's a great way to get people on campus and then can see all the other things that are happening. So that's a very easy, I feel like low hanging fruit thing that we could do very quickly.
Also to just distribute that schedule. So if you do have a schedule of talks, just have, whether it's in, Palo Alto Online or in something that, that becomes a go-to, like what's going on at Coverly this week, and that, you can plan your evenings knowing what talks or lectures are going to be on tap there.
I think you're absolutely right. Like, so for instance, I think a lot of people go through like downtown Palo Alto, and then there's always that, those places that hang and says, well, this is where you go for, you know, jazz concert or whatever. Like we don't see a lot of advertising about Coverly events right in downtown or right in other parts of more populated centers. So it'd be great to cross-pollinate.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you.
Any more comments?
Well, we're just about to lose quorum here.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, well, on that note,
Happening right now.
on that note, do we have any public letters? Okay, any commissioner questions, comments, announcements? All right, well, should we just adjourn the meeting then, since we don't have quorum? Meeting
I think we're
adjourned.
ready.